Alright, so this is the Sony PVM 2530. This 25-inch RGB monitor is simply a beast. It weighs more than my NEC XM29 and is only slightly smaller despite the NEC being 29 inches. It is a rock-solid RGB monitor that is built like a fucking tank and is aesthetically presentable just like the NEC. Like my other monitors, this thing takes composite video and full stereo sound through lines A and B. It also takes S-Video, which has a small switch to choose between it and another type of connection called a VTR. I believe this is an acronym for video tape recorder. Anyways, it's an input I really don't need.
But what I do need is RGB, and it comes in the form of some type of D-sub 25. Why 25 pins? I have no idea. But what I do know is she is not picky about sync. She'll take composite video sync and she'll take it raw. Ooh. Hell, she take any sync you stick in her, even the green kind.
Anyways, what you need to do is head on down to retrogamingcables.com and get this SCART female to sub D25 adapter. This cable does not have a sync stripper built in as it does not need one. If you have problems with the 2530 syncing, you can adjust this knob on the back of the monitor called the V-hold or the vertical hold. Basically, you just dial it till the screen stops flipping. From here, we also have a DGOS button, a new dynamic color switch, which sounds good, but I didn't see a difference, a notch button, which I left in the on position, and an H-center potentiometer. But with all these knobs and shit, we have no way to adjust geometry. So what we have to do for this specific monitor is get inside. Warning, I cannot stress how dangerous it is to open a CRT. I basically used a pair of rubber-tipped anti-static gloves while making sure I was not touching anything that would ground me. AC will fucking kill you. So with a fine-tipped flathead, you can adjust the pots on the side to adjust geometry. It's actually a tedious process doing it like this. Unfortunately, it's the only way. Adjusting geometry on a 30-year-old monitor is like playing tug of war. You fix one thing and you ruin another. The object is to just find a happy medium. So let's make sure the lines are straight as you can. You can also make sure the dots in the center are pinpoint sharp, but with old capacitors, sometimes they will be a bit blurry. Changing the caps may fix this, but it needs to be done by a professional. Finally, we make sure the circles are as perfect as you can. This might ruin your grid doing this, but unfortunately, that's how these old monitors roll. Perfect resolution on an old CRT is probably impossible, so don't waste valuable gaming time dicking with it. By the way, this is the Rgb Mini on an LCD with perfect geometry. Here is as close as I could get on the 2530. As you can see by the dots, it looks like some of the caps could use replacing. I would also like to mention that geometry that is perfect for one 240p console may not be perfect for another. Again, we just have to find a good medium. Unlike the NEC XM29 and the Sony PVM 20L5, the 2530 seems to be handicapped to 240p and 480i resolutions. This could be a deal breaker for those who need 480p and higher resolutions, but what it handles, it does handle really well. One thing I can say about the Sony PVM 2530 is the scan lines are nice and thick, just like the NEC XM29. It seems that the bigger monitors have this down. Also wanted to mention that the footage you're seeing is not from my Super NES Mini, but a modded one-chip Super Famicom. The RGB on these specific variants of the Super NES are far superior to that of any regular Super Nintendo. It is, however, harder to find the one-chip Super NES than just getting a Super NES Mini, let alone someone like Skips who can mod it to its full potential. Yeah, so anyways, back to the subject, fat scan lines and how they make certain 240p games look terrific. Well, let me just show you instead. Alright, it's time to talk about the N64. This is a subject I've been avoiding on video for quite a while. The N64 has my least favorite RGB picture. If it's modded correctly with pure sync, the RGB on the N64 is good. But what kills it is this anti-aliasing or bilinear filter that they use on their games to remove jaggies. I like to think of this filter as something like dithering on the Sega Genesis. It only works if the picture is not clear, like composite. But when you add RGB using the THS7314 circuit and with pure composite sync, you can see what the N64 was really hiding under its hood. It's like a filter you would use on Photoshop, and not a good one. Some people say S-Video is better, and in some ways it does hide the filter better, but I do see way more improvements with RGB. The color is still way more vibrant, and it's much sharper. But then again, that may be the reason why it looks bad. It's because it's too sharp that you can see this ugly filter. Even the almighty Rgb Mini cannot fix this. With its powerful upscaling, it just amplifies that nasty filter. I even turned off the scan lines to see if that would improve the picture. This just made it even more nastier. So with the N64, I was running out of options. It's a system that I believe looks better emulated on my fucking iPhone. I wish there was a way to turn that filter off, or perhaps hack the ROMs to bypass the damn thing. So one day as I was farting around on Facebook at the CRT Collective of all places, one guy suggested I might have the infamous X-shaped cross-hatching patterns on my mod. Now I know that when Skips mods my systems for RGB, it will be the best. So to prove I don't have this issue, I'm going to have to bust out my X-Capture 1 to show you in full lossless video I don't have this issue.
Hello!
Now, as you can clearly see, there are no cross-hatching patterns on my RGB mod. Now, believe me, if there was any, it would show up on the X-Capture. Now, looking at the video earlier, you may say, what the fuck is this, phone dork? Well, that's a Morai pattern caused by vertical scan lines. It's basically artifacts caused by me recording on the CRT with my fucking camera. Now, unfortunately, Super Mario 64 is not a great game to show the N64's anti-aliasing filter. This is because it uses mostly goo-rod shading, I hope I said that right, instead of textured tiles. The perfect game to demonstrate this is Jet Force Gemini. If we look closely at the main protagonist of the game, he looks very blurry. It's kind of like looking through a foggy window. Now, what I want you to pay attention to specifically is the background. It looks lifeless. It's almost as if the color and sharpness has been washed out. But looking at Mario 64, we can clearly see that the colors are vibrant as hell. So what the fuck is this? This filter is bullshit. Some of you might say, well, Phone Dork, that's because the background is far away. Yeah, but that still does not explain this blurry mess of a character we see here. Now, remember when I said earlier if ROMs could be hacked to bypass the anti-aliasing filter? Well, I'm not sure if this is the same, but Quake has an option to turn the filter off, and believe it or not, it looks way better. You want to know what's crazy? Back in the day, I thought N64 graphics were the best because of its smooth ass graphics. But now, when I look at it, it's just a way fucking different story. Another thing that was mentioned to me was using Luma for sync. This did not change anything either. Pure composite sync worked just as good as Luma. In fact, I have two problems with Luma. First, it did not work well with my Rgb or my X-Capture, but this may be because I have a sync strike in line. And second, it has problems syncing when there's too much white on the screen, like here in Mario 64. Anyways, I just wanted to say that the X-Capture 1 is made by the same company who gave us the Rgb Mini. It seems to use that same format for capturing 240p games as the Rgb Mini, so there is no nasty interlacing or de-interlacing of a video signal. Like Adam Korlick's Star Fox video revealing his so-called best quality video on old consoles.
He's invaded the Lilat system and is trying to take over Corneria. Our army alone can't do the job. Hurry, Star Fox!
My main point in using the X-Capture card was to be able to show the N64's anti-aliasing filter as clear as possible. I plan on reviewing this device later, but if you want to compare quality, then go to Adam's video. So once again, as I was trying to finish this video, I was told to report to Denver, Colorado for work. I did, however, bring my Rgb and a few of my consoles to not be bored on the road. The problem with the Rgb after playing it a while on various hotel LCDs was it sometimes performed good and the other times it performed like complete shit. Which brings me to my main problem with the Rgb Mini. You must have a good TV in line with it for great results, and I'm not talking about bigger sets. Bigger is not always better. Basically, I wanted something portable enough to bring on the road that would always perform terrific. So I visited Craigslist in Denver and saw this beauty.
The Sony PVM 14N6U.
With only S-Video, composite, RGB, and mono sound, this system is basically just your meat and potatoes for low-res games. Weighing in at only 30 pounds, this little dynamite packs a serious punch. The scan lines are thin, but making old consoles like the original NES with small sprites the sharpest I have ever seen. However, I felt consoles that use larger sprites look better on the NEC XM29 with fat scan lines, but for the original NES, it's simply sharp as a fucking tack. In all honesty, I believe this is the sharpest monitor I have ever seen, even way sharper than the Rgb Mini, and the geometry is the most perfect I have ever seen on a CRT. But can the ultimate picture be enough to justify playing on a 14-incher? In my opinion, yes.
What? What did he say?
My Sony PVM 14N6U has 500 lines at 14 inches and is sharp as a fucking tack.
Yeah, my NEC XM29 is 29 inches of pure.
Will you two numbnuts keep it down? I'm trying to watch Duck Dynasty on 55. What the hell is that supposed to mean? What are y'all, stupid or something? It means...
Damn, what the hell does it mean?
My dick's bigger than both of y'all put together.
Turn down for what?
Anyways, with this monitor being the sharpest but having the thinnest scan lines, it makes sense to keep my NES hooked up to this baby since most of the games use very small character sprites. This is, of course, my opinion. I am going by what my eyes see. However, your eyes may see something different than mine, and a smaller screen with thin scan lines makes the NES look fabulous, in my opinion. So, the ultimate test in sharpness is to see what this baby can do for the N64, and believe it or not, I believe I have found the N64's sweet spot. So, am I saying this cures the issues with the N64 filter? No, this just makes it much more acceptable in my opinion. The N64 is one of my favorite consoles, and to see it finally in a format that I can thoroughly enjoy is what makes finding this small monitor a treasure. I'm not sure if the monitor being 14 inches is what makes it better or the thin scan lines. It just seems that thick scan lines washes the color and sharpness out too much with the N64's anti-aliasing filter. Also, I'm not trying to compare recording off an RGB monitor to recording directly with the awesome X-Capture. The X-Capture videos are the purest form minus scan lines. It's just a reference. So, with all that I've said, I will leave it up to you to tell me what you think is the best setup for the N64. In the meantime, the phone dork is going back into hibernation. I want to thank everybody for watching my retarded videos and have a wonderful new year. Also, if anybody has suggestions for me to do a review, you can now visit me on Facebook.